You shifted timelines. You stepped into the version of you where it already worked out, not just in your head. You felt it in your body. And then you came back, opened your eyes, and realized you're still living the exact same day. You didn't just imagine a better future. You didn't just think positive thoughts. You actually felt something shift. There was a moment, quiet, subtle, where your system softened. Your chest opened a little. Your breath dropped lower. Your mind stopped scanning for what was wrong. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like you were finally there, like you crossed over, not forcing, not chasing, not trying to make anything happen. Just being in the version of you where things already worked out. And that's why this part is so confusing. Because you came back to your life and nothing around you had changed. Same room, same routine, same delays, same sense of waiting under everything. The same conversations, the same unanswered questions, the same feeling that life is paused, even though you aren't panicking anymore, and you don't really want to say that part out loud. Because if you say, nothing actually changed, it feels like you're saying the shift wasn't real, like you did it wrong, like you slipped out of alignment, like you somehow broke the rules by noticing reality too closely. So you don't say it. You keep that doubt quiet. You tell yourself and something is still unfolding. It just hasn't caught up yet. Timing will handle it. And maybe you even believe that, at least on the surface. But underneath that explanation, there's a tension, a small, honest question that keeps showing up in the background. If I truly shifted timelines, why does my life still look the same? And what makes this harder to talk about is that you're not spiraling anymore. You're calmer now, more grounded, less reactive. Your thoughts don't run away with you the way they used to, so it's not anxiety, it's not fear, it's this low-grade confusion, like you know something changed. But you can't find where it actually landed, because the promise was simple. Shift the state and reality follows. Become the version and the world rearranges. That's what you were told. And you did your part. You didn't cling, you didn't chase, you didn't force, you embodied it. So why are you still here? This is the part most people quietly skip, because it's uncomfortable to notice that an internal shift doesn't automatically create movement. Not because the shift was fake, but because it stopped short. It reached awareness. It reached relief. It reached understanding. But it didn't fully reach the body as permission to reorganize life. So instead of momentum, you got peace. Instead of change, you got clarity. And clarity feels close enough that you don't question it at first. And there's another layer to this that's even harder to admit. Part of you is afraid that if you say this out loud, you'll sound ungrateful. Like you're rejecting the peace you found. Like you're dismissing the growth you made. So you keep telling yourself that being calmer should be enough. That maybe wanting more movement means you're not there yet. That noticing stagnation means you slipped back into ego. But that thought never fully lands, because you're not wishing for chaos again. You're not craving intensity. You're not trying to go back to who you were. You just expected something to follow. Some response, some external confirmation that the shift you felt was actually reflected in your life. Instead, everything stayed neutral. Not bad, not good, just unchanged. And neutrality is confusing, because it doesn't trigger urgency. It doesn't force a reaction. It doesn't demand a decision. It just stretches on quietly. So days blur together, you wake up regulated, you move through your routine calmly, you don't spiral the way you used to, and yet there's this quiet sense that you're marking time instead of moving forward, that you stabilized but didn't advance. And that's not something people warn you about. They tell you about breakdowns. They tell you about awakenings. They don't talk about this middle space where nothing is wrong but nothing is happening either. Where you're not suffering but you're not expanding. Where life feels paused while you're fully present inside it. That's the part that makes you question yourself in the background. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just enough to feel unsettled. It feels like progress. It feels like growth. It feels like you're finally doing things right. Until time passes, days go by, then weeks. And you start to notice that you're still living the same patterns, just with a calmer nervous system inside them. You're responding differently, but you're responding to the same situations. You're less reactive, but nothing new is actually happening. That's why this feels so hard to name. Because something did happen. You're not imagining that. The shift was real, the relief was real, the embodiment was real. But what happened wasn't a timeline jump, it was a state shift without a direction shift, and those two are not the same thing. A state shift changes how life feels. A direction shift changes where life goes. And when only the first happens, you end up suspended. Not anxious, not collapsed, just waiting. Waiting in a calmer body, waiting with more awareness, waiting with less resistance. Which almost feels like success. Until you notice that nothing is moving. And that's where the doubt creeps in. Not loud doubt, not dramatic doubt, quiet doubt. The kind you don't say out loud because it sounds like betrayal. The kind that whispers, "Was that it? Did I miss something? Why didn't reality respond?" And you don't want to question it too much because you're afraid that questioning it means you're undoing the work. So you stay quiet, you stay patient, you stay still. And that's not because you're lazy or resistant or doing it wrong. It's because your system learned how to settle without learning how to move. It learned safety, it learned regulation, it learned awareness. But it didn't learn how to transition, so your body stabilized inside the same life structure. That's why this doesn't feel like failure, it feels like something unfinished, like you stepped through a doorway and stopped in the frame. Not in the old room, not fully in the new one, just hovering. And that's the part no one really talks about, because it doesn't fit the promise. It doesn't fit the story that inner shifts automatically pull reality with them. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just make the waiting more comfortable, and comfort can mask stagnation for a long time, until you're honest enough to notice the mismatch. Until you admit, quietly, that awareness alone didn't complete the loop. That admission isn't negativity, it's not doubt. It's not you falling back, it's your body recognizing that something is still missing. That the shift needs a second landing. Not another visualization, not more faith, not deeper surrender, but actual permission for life to reorganize. And that recognition, right here, right now, isn't the end of the process. It's the point where something real can finally begin to move.